Hello, this is Jacqueline Tidey. I am talking about the effects of explicit timing and immediate feedback on the reading fluency of eighth graders with learning disabilities. The purpose and research questions. The purpose or aim was to determine if using explicit timing and immediate feedback would improve reading fluency in middle school students who receive daily interventions during resource time. And the research question was, what are the effects of using explicit timing and immediate feedback on reading fluency in eighth grade students who have reading goals on their IEPs? The AB reversal design was chosen because it is the same as the original study for the extension proposal. And I was unable to complete the final phase because between phase A1 and B1, there was a pause of about 2.5 weeks. The first phase A1 of the design is the baseline measurement for the study. It's prediction phase. Next phase is B1, implemented the independent variable or the intervention and began following several baseline data points. The third phase, A2, represents the reversal of the verification phase of the design. During this verification phase, proof that the experimental control should have been demonstrated. If the intervention phase had proven effective, the data would have returned to near baseline levels, but you will see that the intervention was no different than baseline. There was a slight increase, but nothing very notable. The study's participants were myself and three Caucasian students, two female, one male, designated other health impairments. The setting was in my special education classroom, reading resource room. Ames Web reading selection, smartphone, folder, and chart paper were the materials. They were looking to increase their reading fluency, that's words read correctly per minute, and words read correctly per minute um, do not include any mispronunciations, omissions, substitutions, insertions, hesitations, transpositions. So that was the target behavior. My score from intervention integrity was 30%. So that wasn't very good. Inter-observer agreement data was at 98%. That was good. And social validity score of 2.6 out of provision score of 3 or better. 3 or better meaning 3, 2, or 1 for each of the 6 questions. The next thing you're looking at is the intervention checklist or the implementation integrity checklist. So basically, the difference between the intervention and baseline is this is what would happen during the intervention. The students would be told that there was a timer, told that they could look at the timer, and then at the end, they were given a visual feedback and positive verbal feedback. And during baseline, they were not allowed to see the timer and they were not given the line graph visual feedback and the positive verbal feedback. They were just told to return back to their desks. If you look at each one of these graphs, you will see each one of these students. They had, for the most point, we look at AH and CB, and they had some outliers at the beginning of baseline. Also with SB, she had a bit of an outlier where she scored her highest score during baseline. And then you can see during baseline and intervention, there was the big pause there of the 2.5 weeks before the intervention started. For each one of the students, they did increase their average words per minute during the intervention phase, but often only by about 10 words or so. And then going back to baseline, they often only had a loss of like 1 word or less when returning to baseline. And of course, I had told you earlier, I did not get back to intervention because I had run out of time. Looking at each one of these graphs, we can see quite a bit of variability because of the outliers. When we take those away, you can see that there was some level, there was some stability in baseline before moving on to intervention. But again, since that 2.5 weeks were lost, I think that The internal validity was lost, and also um, looking at that score that I had for the checklist, I don't believe that the intervention integrity was there either. The investigation did not demonstrate the benefits of using explicit timing and immediate feedback as a simple intervention. If the investigation had been implemented with sufficient intervention integrity, the results might have shown more positive results in internal validity. The students have been working with me for over a year, and I think they're already giving me their best reading. And also, I'd like to point out that each of these students had the designation of OHI under often a diagnosis of ADD or ADHD. And I found that often the timer was something that they didn't even choose to look at. I imagine it would be something that would distract them. They often have a hard time finding, especially when they have to go from one line to the next. So I think maybe that's another reason why the intervention wasn't good for them. They did, however, like to see their results and on the chart and the verbal positive feedback. They also enjoyed that. So, some implications, I would like to further use this in my classroom with my other students um, um, who have qualified for special education with specific learning disabilities in reading fluency, and see how that works for them. Thank you. Bye bye.